Hear that? Believe it or not, summer is just around the corner. Luckily, Armor All, America's most trusted auto appearance brand, has what your car needs to get that perfect summer shine. Plus, now through May 31st, we'll give you $5 for every $20 you spend on Armor All products. That means car wash pods, protectant, tire shine, you name it. Find out how to get your $5 rebate at armorall.com. Armor All, less work, more clean. Terms apply.
Hello and welcome back to First Act, a podcast from Koshy's Business Builders. I'm Cess Busby.
And I'm Adam Bubb.
And if you've been listening to First Act, we hope you've been loving these insightful conversations with Australia's most influential business founders and ideas people.
If you're just joining us for the first time, this podcast is your all-access pass to fascinating founders and the secrets behind the veil of success. We're talking candid chats about what went wrong, what went right, and how to build a business you believe in that lasts and makes an impact. It's powerful stuff. Cess, tell me about today's guest.
Now, Richard Kuipers is one of Australia's best-known entrepreneurs and the founder of one of the nation's largest removal companies. Chances are, if you've moved house, Richard's team at Two Men in a Truck have helped you do it. Richard started the business over 40 years ago with a big dream and a single truck and has grown it into a multi-million-dollar operation that employs 300 people, has a fleet of close to 100 vehicles and turns over close to $20 million a year. It's a massive success story and one that he's shared with his family for the entire journey. Richard, thanks for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Richard, we are thrilled to have you on First Act today. We always start with what we call our First Act icebreaker. It's just a random icebreaker to get the conversation flowing. So the icebreaker I have for you today is, look, I know that you have a pilot's license. You're a pilot. I want to know, what is the best or worst flight you've ever had?
Well, I've had many bad flights, and as a miracle, I'm still alive. Unfortunately, due to bad eyesight, I couldn't get my pilot's license anymore. But definitely losing my way up in the sky sometimes, that was pretty horrific and nerve-wracking. But I survived it all, so I'm lucky.
Well, we're glad that you're here with us. I am just imagining you there up in the skies, upside down, in all kinds of precarious situations.
It's a pretty risky business.
Now, let's get back to your journey. You had a very different career path in mind when you first left school. You studied hotel management. So why did you decide to leave that behind?
Well, I came to Australia nearly 50 years ago, and in those days there weren't many hotels around the place. It was the Menzies and a few others. So I never really got into the hotel business at all, and I started doing other things. And it's been good.
So for those who are listening, I'm sure they picked up that you have an accent and you were born in Holland and you came over here as a young man. What first brought you to Australia?
Well, I was young. I was 26 at the time when I came here, and it was more adventure, seeing the world, and Australia was really the place to go to in those days. So I was one of the first backpackers to arrive in Australia. That was in 1973, and I was only planning to stay here for a few months, but 50 years later, I'm still here.
What had you seen about Australia that made it seem so tempting, because I think I love Holland. I think Holland's a fantastic country.
Yeah, Holland is fantastic. But anyway, I stayed here and I did a few things and started a few little businesses here and there. And then I met a girl, Cheryl, and we got married. So before I knew it, we had children. So I had to stay here.
What, they wouldn't take you back to Holland with a wife and kids?
No, my father never sent me a ticket to come back home again, so that's why I'm still here. It's been a good choice too.
I read that one of your early jobs here in Australia was in an opal mine. Can you tell me how that came about and what that experience was like?
I stayed in a hostel in those days, like a backpacker's hostel, and I was told by one of the people who lived there to make one's fortune in Australia, one should go opal mining. So that's what I went. We went up to Lightning Ridge, and we got a claim on a piece of dirt. And, well, of course, it was a disaster. Never found anything. But also, I heard a wise lesson: never start an opal mine if you don't know what an opal looks like. So that was pretty much of a disaster, and I came back to Sydney, and yeah.
Could you have been throwing out the precious gems with the dirt accidentally?
Yeah, most likely. It's not as easy as it looks.
Oh, I bet. From there, I think it's safe to say that you found what would be, the jewel in the crown of your career with 2 Men and a Truck. What inspired you to found 2 Men and a Truck? Take us through those, the early days of those ideas.
Yes, I was doing quite a few other things, and I needed also a little truck. So I bought this beaten up little red truck, and I started doing a few deliveries because the furniture shop up the road said, do you mind helping me out doing a delivery here and there? So I said yes. And then he would say, Richard, I need 1 man in the truck if it's any small little thing. And if it was a big load, he would say, I need 2 men and a truck. So I never knew anything about removals at all in my entire life. It just happened by coincidence. And I started doing this. And another good way is poverty. When you're poverty-stricken, you have to make money. So that was making sort of a little bit of money in those days.
Because you had the wife and the kids to support by then?
Yeah, and a mortgage and all kinds of things. So that's why I was running around on the weekends and after hours delivering tables and bookcases and goodness knows what.
And so you initially operated the business from a caravan in the family backyard. What was that like?
Well, first of all, we worked from home. And then my wife got fed up with all these people walking in. So I bought a caravan, secondhand from somewhere, and we put it in the backyard. And that became our office for quite a long time.
It's a good divider between your home life and your work life. Nowadays, people are just, working in their bedrooms quite often.
Yeah, that's right. And so we were in the caravan for about 2 years. And then the council was sort of got narky and said we have to move. So we moved from the caravan and I rented a little shop in Camaray. And that became our office for quite a few years. And then I bought premises in St. Leonard's. And we're still there after all those years.
Wow. So one of the other things that I've read about your 2 Men and a Truck, I hear from a little birdie that in the early days of building the business, you had a bit of notoriety in the red light district of Sydney. Can you tell me about that?
This is right in the beginning when I arrived in Australia. I didn't have any work. So one of the inmates at the backpackers hostel said, come with me, I can get you a job. So but the second day I arrived in Australia, I got a job at the Whiskey and Go-Go Club in King's Cross. I was the waiter, barman, a jack of all trades there.
The things that you would have seen. Abe Saffron doing deals.
All these people sitting in the back there at the Whiskey and Go-Go. And it was time of the Vietnam War, so there was a lot of GI soldiers there. And a lot of, it was packed all this to the rafters and cigarette smoke and it was quite a place to go to. And it also had a stage there. And Johnny O'Keefe used to perform there.
Shout, that's right.
Sammy Davis was there and Frank Sinatra was there one stage. And, of course, we had all the gangland people from the Cross there too.
So that was it was a different era, that kind of thing. It was a different sort of thing. But at that point, were you doing removalist work then, or was that before that?
No, that was before that. This is when I just arrived in Australia. It must be 1973, 74.
Right. So we're talking about the 70s, that wild 70s period in the cross.
So you start in the caravan, you move to the little shop, then you've got your bigger premises. What have been some of the challenges in scaling the business from that first
Uh,
idea to today?
well, I didn't really have any plans at all. I just had one little truck, and I used to do the removals myself in those days. And I picked up our next door neighbour's son. He was 15 at the time, and we used to go and do the removals. And then slowly we got busy, and then we got another truck on the go, and slowly we sort of built it up to more trucks, and we just kept on going. And today we've got about 90 trucks on the road, I think. So it's a lot of people.
Yeah, it's a national brand now. Like you're in Perth, you're Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane.
East coast of Australia, and we're all busy.
Hmm.
So it's a lot of organisations, but I'm also terribly lucky. I've got the family in the business. So our daughters look after the operations now, which makes a big difference.
Yeah, let's talk about that family business element, because working with family can be a really joyful, wonderful experience, but it can also be challenging butting heads with a family member. What's it been like for you?
It's extremely challenging and difficult. Working with the family is one of the hardest things you can do because they're all sort of different. You can't choose your family members. So, but we had a lot of help to do it, because working with the family, we all have to come together, and you have to talk to each other and have a plan. What's the future of two men in a truck? Because I'm now 75, so I can't keep on going all the time. And we had a lot of arguments in the family, disagreements. And then we joined an organization called Family Business Australia, which deals solely with family businesses. And that gave me an idea on how we should structure the company and become a family business company. And we started having meetings, and we got a mediator. You can't do these things without a mediator. And our mediator was accredited by Family Business Australia. So we started having meetings, and every meeting, everything was written down, and it became our charter of the family. And this takes quite a few years, because in a family business, you have to talk about the family, and then it's in the business and the ownership of the business. You also have to take in consideration the in-laws, like I've got 3 son-in-laws, and of course, the most important person at all, my wife. What happens if something happens to me? How will my wife be provided for? So there's a lot of things going on that had to be sorted out.
Yeah, that is such an important thing to talk about, because I think a lot of family businesses have these issues that pop up all the time that go, right, there's a pressure from maybe one generation to another, and then sometimes there's that one person who has a very different view on how the business should be moving forward, and then there's also looking out for other family members. Everyone has such different kind of takes on it, like you can have a lot of different personalities. How do you kind of think that, do you kind of recommend that approach with the mediator there to kind of get everyone's, priorities and communication styles on the table and on that same page?
Yeah, no, if you haven't got a mediator, then it won't work. You need an independent mediator who is experienced in family business management, and he can direct the family on how to do it. We go step by step. We started off with talking to each other, what we want to do with the business. Do you want us to sell it, or do you want us to close it down, or do you want to take over the business? So we started giving clarity to the children on the future of two men and a truck.
I mean, some of Australia's most successful businesses are family businesses. What do you think has made Two Men in a Truck so successful? Is it because you have your family, as that support network, everyone really believes in it?
Definitely. A family business has a lot of strength and has a lot of values because we all believe in the same values and we all have the same ideas of how the business should be run. But a lot of family businesses, there's 68% of companies in Australia are family owned and family managed. But only a few percentage have got a family structure in place and a charter in place. Most family businesses find it too hard to do all this because the intrigue of the family and the feuding that goes on, so they just try to ignore it. And that, of course, has difficulties in the future. If I pass away, what's going to happen?
Family business is so fascinating. I mean, because you look at family businesses and they say that the fortunes of a family business can be like one family builds the business up, starts the fortune, the next one spends it, and the third generation loses it. Hopefully that's not how it goes for you, but there's like quite a lot of very, very famous families, like with fortunes, American ones in particular, where,
Oh, yeah.
they haven't obviously done what you did and had that mediation and had the structure put in place and really planned for how the next generation was going to step in.
Now, I've no issue about the second generation because our daughters are very capable and they will definitely keep the business going the way it is. On the third generation, of course, I have no control at all. So we just hope for the best and see what happens.
Given that it's your daughters running it now, has there been the temptation to change it to 2 women and a truck?
Well, if you look at my my website, telephone, it's T2 men, and you can also read it as T women.
T women and a truck. Oh,
Yeah,
should have thought of that. Should have thought of myself.
2 men. People get mixed up with that. No, the furniture removal business has to be done by the men mostly, and the office is run by the women, and they do a fantastic job.
We'll be back with more from Richard Kuipers after this very short break.
Thanks again for joining us, Richard. Now, you have recently chronicled your experiences as the founder of 2 Men in a Truck in a book called Inside the Box. Now, what made you decide it was time to put your whole journey down on paper for other entrepreneurs to learn from?
Well, I was hoping, because I've been through the family business management for a long time, and I don't believe people in business know the complexity of running a family business and what you have to do. Because if you don't do it properly now, later on, it'll end up in court and everybody will be fighting about the business. So I try to avoid anything with legal actions that can be taken against us when I am not here anymore. So it's just safeguarding the whole business, and it also gives my children a plan for the future of how we can operate harmoniously as a family together. And that benefits everybody.
It's wise thinking, but you don't want to end up like the Hancocks.
No, that's another thing you try to avoid. And we go to a lot of meetings. We member of Family Business Australia. We go to all the conferences. Our daughter Catherine, who's the CEO, she goes to the second generation thing at the Family Business Australia. We've got the second generation. She's done many courses, and she also knows how to manage a family business.
Yeah, you mentioned your daughter Catherine. She's now at the helm. What's the best advice you could give her, or that you have given her, moving forward with the business?
Well, she knows exactly who she knows exactly me. She's been as the CEO for quite a few years now, and I've got my ideas, and of course she has her ideas. But we also managed to compromise. She does what she thinks is right, and I advise her, and the family will advise her too. So it works out well. It has its moments, but on the whole, it's all going smoothly.
And so with you stepping down as CEO and Catherine taking over, you've taken on a new role as a brand ambassador?
They had to sort of give me a title and do something. So maybe the brand ambassador. And the brand ambassador tells the story of how Two Men and a Truck got started and all the ups and downs we've had, the dramas, the family business. We had plenty of dramas, I can assure you, and how it all kept on going. So I go to a lot of meetings. I go to social events. I do public speaking sometimes.
So what were some of those dramas then? You mentioned the family dramas.
Well, the business dramas, of course, when I started, I had nothing in place. I wasn't aware what I was doing. I had no business experience. So
you were just a young guy from Holland trying to make a buck.
I never heard about taxation or accounting, or nothing like that. So, and it all had to be streamlined. The bigger the company becomes, then, of course, the more regulations, more protocols, HR, that had all to be put in place. So we'd been busy doing that for quite a long time, getting our company up there with the big ones, with all the regulations in place. And that was our biggest challenge.
What about personality clashes? Because that's often a thing that can feel very personal when it's in family, because these are the people that you know them the best. They're the people you love the most, you have the strongest feelings for, and yet you can also have the strongest feelings the other way and be like, I absolutely hate how you did that, or that decision you made was so far off the mark, or that was impulsive. Like, has there ever been a situation where you've shaken your head afterwards and gone, like, I didn't choose this person as my family?
Well, sometimes that happens, but we also get very difficult customers too. So, but then we've got a very good, culture in our family and at work. Everybody treats us a bit like a family member. I've never had really anybody in the office leaving us. They all stayed with us. We all look after the family. And our employees have been there for 20 years sometimes. So it's a long time. And I think we have a good culture. We have a good social responsibility attitude. We look after. During the floods, we delivered goods to the water victims. So we do a lot. And I think that sort of makes the people in the office sort of feel that they're part of something more than just a removal company.
Yeah, you've just touched on that slightly. Two Men and a Truck has a corporate social responsibility program. It's called Moving Together. Can you tell us a little bit more about that, what it does, and why social responsibility has become a big part of Two Men and a Truck's everyday ethos?
Well, it is, because I think if you have a family company, our duty is to leave the planet in a better state for the next generation. So we can do this with social responsibility. We've got trucks and we can help charities out with delivery furniture. We do the refuge centres, the daffodil, and when the floods were on, we did the flood victims and the cancer thing for bicycles. And we do more things like that. We sponsor kids' soccer teams and my grandchildren, school events. So we do a lot, and also we're on board at the Anne Frank exhibition, which is a travelling exhibition around Australia. Being Dutch, of course, Anne Frank is important to us. And we do the transport part of the transport, not all of the transport, and take it from one place to the other. So social responsibility, I think, encourages the people in the office to realise we're more than just a removal company.
In 2020, you participated in Vinny's CEO Sleep Out, and you've said that experience has changed your perspective. Can you tell us how it impacted you?
I've done the CEO Sleep Out for Vinny's for about 6 years now. This is the first year I haven't done it. it does impact you being on the street. It also impacted a country like Australia that's so rich and wealthy that people have to sleep outside on the street, especially with women with babies and children. I've seen them sleep on the street, and it's just amazing that this can happen in Sydney. So it has a big impact to me. And we also sponsor the Refuge Centre. And we do a delivery once a week. We provide a truck, and we sort of do our best. But it is a sad, but doing the CEO sleepover is a pretty rough charity to be part of, spending the night on the streets.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you can also relate from having you came here with basically very little when you came to Australia. You can kind of look back to where you are from that to now and go, you know what, like I have this opportunity to be able to give back, and you've got a company that provides a service that can actually really help people. You're transporting goods, you're transporting food, you're really helping people out. So that is a real. I just think for anybody who does run a business, it's always important to look at that and go, how can I contribute to the social fabric? Like you said, but we're talking about your corporate social responsibility program. Like, what can I contribute?
Especially Australia, we're such a wealthy nation, and yet we have these cases of extreme poverty, and so many corporations really don't give a damn. So it is not admirable, but kind of admirable in a way that you have decided that you won't turn a blind eye to that.
No, you have to do this because we see an awful lot, because in our business we do an awful lot of moving, and we can see a lot of domestic violence. We see divorces, split-ups, people angry that they have to move. So it is a very hard, sometimes very hard to move people and make people happy that they have to, go into the new place. But often it is very sad.
Mm. But I suppose also the role of a removalist, you are closing off somebody's a chapter in someone's life. There is a positive to take from it. That this could be the beginning of something new.
Oh yes, but then also we do a lot of people. We move from they're moving to a nursing home or to a retirement village. They don't particularly want to move, but they have to move. So it's difficult sometimes.
It must be fascinating because it is like you do see chapters of people's lives, like opening and closings of doors in a way.
Yes, no, we do that all the time. And we also have a lot of people who've been in the same house for many, many years, and they've got the house full of furniture and, bits and pieces, and they've got nowhere to take it to because they have to move into a smaller place. And then, of course, they don't know what to do with it all.
Gosh, it can be such an emotional process.
Yeah, a lot of heartbreak. Do you have counselling for your removalists?
Oh, yes, we have that for sure. Our daughters, especially our youngest daughter, Elizabeth, is very good talking to people, and she can sort of make them at ease. But in the office, we also have a counselling service. If somebody feels that they need counselling, we've got a counselling company they can refer to.
That's good to know. That's such an important part of, I guess, like that corporate social responsibility, not just doing good for people out there, but also for the people who work for you, who are part of the 2 men in a truck family.
Oh, definitely, because we have about 300 people. So that's a lot of people. And there's a lot of people these days with, they believe they've got mental issues. After the COVID, we had a lot of issues. Nobody knew exactly what was going to happen. We had to have all these regulations in place, going from place to place. It was hard for them too.
Well, one of the challenges that you've personally faced in 2014, you developed a condition known as posterior cortical atrophy (PCA) that impairs your vision. How did that diagnosis make you reevaluate your life and where you're going?
That's been one of the hardest things I have, because I'm sort of legally blind now. And a lot of things I used to do, like flying planes, driving cars, reading, watching television, all these things have become sort of nearly impossible. So I can't read a newspaper or do anything. But anyway, life, you have to carry on with life, and this is how it is. You can't do much about it. But I can't do anything on the computer.
Yeah, it's funny because all the things you mentioned, apart from obviously flying, which is probably out of a lot of our leagues, but the other things are very simple pleasures which we all take for granted, reading, watching TV, and suddenly you don't have the enjoyment of that anymore. Have you taken up any new hobbies, or are you doing any different things now because of your diagnosis?
So I suppose I am. I go walking in the morning for a short walk. And I've been writing books, of course. I've written 2 books. And that was also hard because with the computer you have to use big letters. So it was a bit of a circus. Anyway, life goes on and you make the most of it.
It's a very good attitude to have, Richard. Life does go on. So to wrap up, what do you think is the biggest lesson that you think you've learned about yourself from these 40-odd years of being in business with 2 men in a truck?
I'll always be optimistic. You're never pessimistic. You must have a good attitude, a good culture, and you have to have perseverance. And you have to keep on going forward. You can never go backwards. And what happened in the past, you just have to forget and pull a line in the sand and keep on going. And that's what we have done. We had a lot of ups and downs in the beginning, but we always kept on going.
Yeah, you've got to keep those wheels on the road.
And you don't dwell on things too long. Otherwise, it takes too much time. You just keep on rock and rolling.
Keep on rock and rolling. I think we can. Those are words we can all live by. Richard Kuipers, we feel privileged to have you on this podcast. Thank you so much for sharing your first act.
And thank you for inviting me. It's been great.
So for anybody who'd like to know more about 2 Men and a Truck, head to 2men.com.au or twomen.com.au, which is a handy way to remember the website, to find out more about Richard and his great family business. And please join us again next week for another fantastic First Act conversation. Thank you.